Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I am your host, Tom Conrad. To my left, we have Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
All right. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If, in fact, you do find value in this, as I'm sure you do, don't hesitate to share it with somebody. Somebody needs to hear our message and would be beneficial to yourself, to them, to us, if as many people as possible can hear it. So, again, if you have questions, comments, or concerns about your specific situation, you can email us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. Don't hesitate, please. There's no stupid questions. We sometimes give stupid answers, but hey, it is what it is. Email us. Let us know what it is that is on your mind, and we will get back to you promptly. How's that, Ben?
Sounds good.
All right. So in this episode, Ben and I want to discuss... We get emails rather often from people that are kind of sharing with us their experience and what's going on, and they want some guidance, some insight. And so I'm just going to kick this one off in particular, Ben. I'm going to paraphrase this email if you don't mind. It's kind of lengthy, not really. And I'll obviously leave out the name because we don't know if she's going to want this shared or not. But all right, so this email, I'm gonna paraphrase it, but to the tune of, "I love your podcast so much. It's been very helpful to me. I started listening way back when." She was sad when we took a break, which we I don't know why we did. I know why we did, but whatever. We're back now. "I feel like I relate to you because I was addicted to the needle for 3 years. Ben, that's you." She's been to treatment twice and has so many relapses, and she hasn't used now for 9 months, and she's grateful for that. But her question for us is our thoughts on Kratom, because she said, "I ask about Kratom because literally the only way I've been able to come off of subs is with Kratom. It's been almost 2 months and I'm starting to taper, but I have friends who think that it's fine to take Kratom for the rest of their lives. I know you and Tom are all for total abstinence, which is my end goal for sure, which is why I stopped subs in the first place. Hope you guys are safe over there in Florida, sending prayers your way." So pretty interesting. And I just want to take a moment and recognize that she says, "I know you and Tom are all for abstinence, which is my end goal for sure, which is why I stopped subs in the first place." Did she stop subs because we're abstinence-based, Ben?
I'm not sure. You know, I'm pretty open about my journey, and a lot of the times, like we just recently did a podcast about Suboxone in particular, you know, and I kind of look at it as whatever gets you there. We've said it time and time again on the podcast, like, I'm not going to knock Suboxone. In this case, I'll just come out and say it now. I'm not going to knock Kratom completely, because if it's keeping you alive, getting you where you need to go, and eventually abstinence base is the way to go, you know, and we'll get more into detail on that. But if it's part of somebody's experience, like, you can't say that they're wrong about it, so to speak. But I will say point blank, cognitively speaking, when it comes to performing in life, being happy, joyous, and free, I believe the best way to go about that is to eventually be off of everything, you know, and hopefully the quicker the better, you know, but hey, who am I to say?
Well, I think it goes back to, again, we had Brennan on here, and he was the one that shared a lot of his experience with being on Suboxone for a long time, to the tune of, I think, 8 years or something close to that. And again, it's something that there is, in my opinion, there is no argument to abstinence based. There isn't. I mean, I can't justify in my head one reasonable argument outside of, we are trying to keep you alive.
So I think it's important. Maybe we kind of skipped over this and we should rewind a little bit. Maybe some of our listeners don't know what Kratom is, but I'll just throw it out there for people that aren't familiar. Kratom is basically, it's an extract out of a sort of pine tree. It's been a while since I've researched it. I had to go over this in back in my college days for the addictions program. But it's an extract from a pine tree in Southeast Asia, and basically it binds to your opioid receptors like any opiate would: Oxycontin, heroin, fentanyl, etc. So it's working on those same neurotransmitters, basically. With that being said, kratom I think in some states currently it's illegal. It is legal in the state of Florida. It's legal in a lot of states. I know at one point the DEA actually made it illegal temporarily federally, and it lasted about 2 days. But apparently the DEA didn't go through the proper process, and within a number of days it was back on the market down here in South Florida. Unfortunately, in my opinion, you can walk right into a gas station here and it's all in the windows. You know, the head shops, the gas stations that sell the crack pipes and the meth pipes right in the front, like those types of places have it. And so does your run-of-the-mill Mobil or Shell gas station. You know, they're right there. And it's something that, working in the recovery field, you know, a lot of our clients come across, especially the opiate addicts, not realizing what they're getting into, because a lot of people from other states aren't familiar. It became a big thing in Florida because there's so many people down here trying to get sober. But we have the kava, kratom bars. You know, a lot of those kava bars, actually, mostly what they sell, if I understand correctly, is actually kratom. You know, and it has a lot of the same effect. It could be euphoric. You know, it could be, if you take enough of it, it can somewhat sedate you. You know, it can give you energy. If you look it up, the effects of kratom are basically that of an opioid. So I just wanted to touch on that, what it was, and you know what we've seen down here. But easily accessible, nearly illegal, then went back.
Well, it says here Alabama recently became the 6th state to ban the herbal supplement kratom over concerns of its potential for addiction, according to the Associated Press, whatever that's worth. Wisconsin, Vermont, Tennessee, Indiana, and Arkansas have also banned the supplement.
So let me touch on one other thing real quick. I'll just we'll kind of get to answering the questions that were in the email, but I think it's important from, you know, our experience with the number of clients that we work with. I'd say at any given time, it's probably pretty accurate to say what we usually have, 20 to 25 people on our census at a time here at Rock. I would say it's not abnormal to have at least one person at any given time that they come in here and tell us their drug of choice is kratom. And you see it a lot with professionals due to its legal status, for instance. You know, we've had people in here that are taking drug tests for, you know, maybe they work for the airlines, they're pilots, stuff along those lines, and they can take kratom because they're not drug testing for it. And even if they were, it's still legal. So, you know, we are seeing definitely here, at least in South Florida, I know it's nationwide too, but I'm just talking about our local experience. There's definitely an uptick. And the other thing that I've recognized as well is back maybe 3 years ago or so, you know, if somebody was physically addicted to kratom, because it does have the same withdrawal potential as any other opiate, you know, the diarrhea, the throwing up, the tremors, the shaky tongue, you name it, you know, it's the flu-like symptoms, the high anxiety, it's all there, and it's at times pretty significant. You know, one thing that I'm seeing now that I didn't see 3 years ago approximately is that insurance companies, we used to have to send somebody to detox and they would deny it. Insurance companies are starting to recognize that people are needing detox protocols and medications to get off of kratom. Ironically, they use Suboxone to do it, sometimes a light benzo, but just kind of throwing it out there of what we've been seeing. You know, it's becoming more and more common. And when insurance companies start recognizing and paying for the detox, you know it's becoming significant and it's a thing.
Yeah, it's something that is, I don't know. For me, it's very kind of black and white. There are instances that I can see justified kratom use. Those, for me, are going to be slim to none, at least given the population that we're talking with. Now, if I read this email and, you know, just kind of look at it for what it is, you know, she's a heroin addict. You know, to the point where she was shooting up in the bathroom and ended up on Suboxone. So, okay, yeah, you have one substance, switch over to another substance, Suboxone, and now switched over to another substance, Kratom. Now, the friends that are telling you that it's okay and you could take Kratom for the rest of your life, why? Would be my question is, why do your friends say that that's okay? And I would question, are your friends ex-heroin addicts or ex-fentanyl addicts or ex-addict in any sort of degree? And if they are, then I would really especially listen, if they're not addicts and they say that, I get it. It's just ignorance, But if they're addicts and they are on this train of I'm just going to take Kratom for the rest of my life, I would really challenge their sobriety, because the idea behind sobriety is to be free of any and all mood and mind altering substances, any and all. Now, ibuprofen doesn't make me feel a certain sort of way. Neither does Tylenol. Neither does blood pressure medications, which I recently started taking. Do you know that?
I did.
Yeah.
You've always had high blood pressure.
I wonder why. So, listener who will remain nameless, no, I don't think that it's something that you can take for the rest of your life. You can absolutely take it for the rest of your life, but I think it really just boils down to why. And I do think that this is where some sort of program comes into play, because left to our own devices, it could be very difficult, And again, I will boil it down to something that is relatable to most people: cookies, candies, cakes, sugar, It's one of the hardest things that I've had to try and get a grip on. And with that being said, I find that when I have a why behind why I need to watch eating these things, it becomes more easy for me to make that decision. So, I would challenge you to figure out your why as to why, not so much what's going to happen if and when I come off of Kratom, or what's going to be taken away when I come off of Kratom, but more, what is this going to add to your life by coming off of it?
I think too, if you look at the modalities of treatment, taking Kratom, taking Suboxone, anything along those lines would fall under what would be referred to as the harm reduction model. You're reducing the amount of harm, not eliminating. I should coin the phrase. I don't know if there's actually a phrase for it.
For what?
Harm elimination would be abstinence. So point being is like taking Kratom, there's probably still going to be some cons to it. I mentioned it earlier, but cognitively speaking, you're not going to be all there. You're just not going to be as sharp. You're not going to meet your potential. Point blank, I don't know how else to say it. You're not going to be on your game as if you were abstinent and your brain has had time to recuperate itself. And excuse me. And the other parts of this too is I just lost my train of thought.
You were talking about not being as sharp on Kratom.
Oh yeah. The other I know. Here I am. I've been taking my Kratom this morning. The other part though too is if you look at the health stuff behind Kratom in particular, one of the things that I've seen a lot with people coming into treatment for it, and also I know people out there from the outside who haven't come through rock who have been hooked on Kratom as well, like a lot of digestion issues. The amount of Kratom that somebody has to consume, and I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like a leafy, ground up, like baseball clay dirt, if you will. Like
I've never seen it. Full transparency. It could be here right now in front of me. I wouldn't know what it was.
Yeah. And I mean, you literally have to consume a ton of this stuff in a day. And I've seen a lot of like people with really bad digestive issues, and there's ways that they try to extract the matter out of it and get just the alkaloids or whatever it is out of it to get the effect, trying to kind of circumvent that. But as your tolerance goes up, people have health issues with it. They become malnutrition because they're not as hungry, so there's a lot of other side effects too with it. Coming off of it, your anxiety is going to be through the roof. And as your tolerance goes up, if you're taking it for anxiety, it's also going to go up. One thing that I want to point out, I forgot to mention this, Tom. Our doctor here at Rock just recently went to a seminar on Kratom. And basically, it was an entire seminar she told me about, a day long. And she emailed me the information. I should have printed it off and read it before this. I didn't think to. I just thought of this. But she was saying that they made a comment in this seminar that Kratom consumption at its height can be the equivalent to being on 16 milligrams of Suboxone. Wow. So, it's up there. If I took 16 milligrams of Suboxone right now, I'd probably be puking and Space Cadet on the floor. I have no tolerance at this point because I've been off opiates.
What would happen if I took 16 milligrams of Suboxone?
Same thing, Tom. You'd probably be dead. No, but being that we have no tolerance to opiates at this point with our sobriety time, 16 milligrams of Suboxone, that would knock me out without a doubt.
Yeah. Again, it boils down to just even being in the position of having to listen, and no shame in your question. We get this all the time. I mean, I think it's, kudos to you for even wanting to ask this. I think it's important to draw awareness around it, but it's not uncommon for people to, and I think there's part of us as being humans and being addicts, it's in our nature to want to justify something. And honestly, you did it in your email. Hey, my friend said that this is something that I could be on the rest of my life. It's a form of justification, but the difference is that you are drawing attention around it, which I think is important, and at least asking. I know people that would say, hey, my doctor said that I can, eat 2 milligrams Xanax bars a day, 3 of them a day. And that's, prescribed by my doctor. And because it's from a doctor, all right, well, hey, I guess because the doctor said so, go for it. So, I mean, it's kidding, obviously, don't go for it. It's just because a doctor says so, just because your friends say that it's okay and stuff like that. It's more of an internal type thing. And that's why I challenge you to, what is your why? And if it's the fear of, tapering off and stuff, listen, reality is that, that's not a good enough reason. It really isn't, because you're going to have to embrace the suck, as they say. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be uncomfortable. But as we know, going through recovery, going through the whole sobriety process, being uncomfortable is a good thing. Because we can start to understand, and now, when you get to the other side of that uncomfortability, it makes it a lot more difficult for you to want to go back there.
And I'll just throw it out there too. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice, nor is Tom.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. But what it comes down to for me as well is I do know people who have tapered themselves off of quote unquote stronger, less acceptable opiates, and let's just call it what it is. People are always trying to figure out street methods to get off of opiates and other drugs, and hey, I tried all kinds of street methods to get off of opiates, and people are going to be doing it. Again, I'm not a doctor. I highly advise, going to a detox and having a professional help you out with it. But at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. These street methods, people are looking for new ways to get off of it. They don't have insurance. They don't have funds, whatever the case may be. Yeah, at the end of the day, hey, man, you're going to taper yourself off with Kratom, but I'm a Tom on that one. What's the end game? What's the why? Eventually, me personally, I think it's best to be off of it all. But if that's part of your journey getting there, let's say you're shooting 2 grams of dope a day, and next thing you know, you're consuming a half ounce of Kratom or an ounce or however much you have to do a day, and you taper off that way, and it takes you a few months. I guess that beats the alternative. Kudos to you, so I'm not going to totally knock it. People have to have their experience, but at the end of the day, I'd like to see it done quickly if someone is going to do it. And again, this is my Ben from the street mentality. If Kratom was around, I guarantee you it's something I would have tried. It didn't start coming around until I had about 2 or 3 years sober. I remember when I first started seeing it.
All right. Well, I hope that helps you. And, as the writer of the email, I'm sure that you will recognize this. You know what you wrote. So let us know. Hopefully this sheds some light into it. And listen, if you need guidance or if you want some kind of, just want to bounce something off of us or whatever, email us again, email Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. Don't be afraid to email Ben, people out there. Ben and I were talking about this morning. I get emails all the time. Ben has feelings. And when Ben doesn't get emails, he kind of feels a little certain sort of way, Me, I could do without sometimes. I get a lot of them. So email Ben.
Keep emailing Tom.
At realrecoverytalk.com.
Tom at realrecoverytalk.com.
No, we're just kidding. Email whoever it is that you feel. Listen, reality is some people can relate to Ben a lot more than me, and a lot of people can relate to me a lot more than Ben. But you're going to probably get two different type of answers depending on who you email. I'm more of the, just kick you in the ass and tell you to figure it out type way. And Ben's, he'll give you an ear to, how's that go?
I have no idea where you're going.
He's nice.
He's nice.
So, all right, we got to wrap this up. Thank you for tuning in to Real Recovery Talk. Again, if you have questions, comments, or concerns about your specific situation or a loved one's situation, you could always email us, Tom at realrecoverytalk.com and Ben at realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, Ben and I's mission is to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.